Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on version 8 of MEDIAL. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please type them into the chat and we will address them at the end. A recorded version of this webinar will be available should you wish to share it with any interested colleagues. You'll be emailed with a link in the coming days with that. So without any further delay, let's move on to go through the release with you. Single sign-on was a highly requested feature by our user base. On this subject, the first question is, what does single sign-on mean with regard to your usage of MEDIAL? First and foremost, this means that the experience of logging into MEDIAL will become different, but in a way that is very familiar to your user base. As pictured here, instead of using the MEDIAL login screen, your users will be redirected to your single sign-on screen. Also, due to the fact that MEDIAL is set up as an enterprise application in Azure, as pictured here, MEDIAL can also appear as an app icon within your Microsoft 365 environment. So in essence, it appears alongside all of the other apps, and provided your users are logged in already, there is no need to log into MEDIAL separately due to the single sign-on integration being in place. This also brings an end to any need for users to initially do a one-time registration to use our LMS integrations. Users are always registered on the fly from the information we are sent by the LMS, with user accounts and content being married up upon first use of the MEDIAL library or portal. For those that want to continue using a mixture of single sign-on and locally created accounts, we have the option to include both on a drop-down menu as well. In terms of maintaining the existing group permissions you have in MEDIAL, it couldn't be simpler. We authenticate against Azure Active Directory, which in all likelihood you will have synced with your own AD via AD Connect. All we need to do is add the unique group identifier to the existing groups you have set up in MEDIAL. This can be done as a one-time bulk process when migrating to SSO, or done on an ad hoc basis through the admin UI in MEDIAL. If you'd like to migrate to SSO in conjunction with your upgrade to V8, please get in touch and we'll talk you through the simple steps. Our popular LMS integrations really came into their own throughout the pandemic, and in version 8 we've made multiple improvements to these in terms of usability. In Moodle, for example, we've added our own custom weighting dialog. In addition, we've also added a branded weighting dialog for all of our other integrations. In terms of the user interface of the search screen, this has been made not only more aesthetically pleasing, but also more usable and packed full of new functionality. Firstly, particular types of content are clearly labelled so that your users can distinguish between their own recordings and content which they have simply uploaded to the system. If enabled at a system-wide level, you can also now permit users to download their own content with a simple click. Or again, if enabled, to delete their own content as well. The really big change here is that users can also choose whether to share their content outside of the LMS. Again, enabling this or not is down to your own preferences, but I'll talk you through the possibilities here. The first thing to say here is that the personal private, personal public choice is now available within the LMS. There's no need for a user to log into MEDIAL, as pictured here, to make this choice as before, as they will get their anonymous sharing link from within the LMS, as pictured on this slide. Indeed, as well as getting a player page link, the user can also select to get a direct link to the underlying MP4 file. This is great news for our customers who use H5P, as this MP4 link can be pasted directly into H5P for the MEDIAL video to be used within an interactive video. All of this without leaving the LMS and navigating elsewhere to get the link. With the announcement from Blackboard that building blocks would go end of life in the near future, we developed a Blackboard Ultra integration in version 8 of MEDIAL. As you can see from the slide, you can select us as an LTI item on the rich text editor. You can then select us as a content provider and do all of the things that you could do before in our building block, upload, record, etc. Then on completion, the media asset is added to the course. The existing functionality where students can also use the tools to submit video responses to assignments is also available in our Ultra integration. Our Teams integration was also a must-have for most of our customer base due to the extraordinary growth in Teams usage throughout the pandemic. The biggest driver of the need for this integration, however, has been Microsoft's decision to migrate Teams meeting recordings from Microsoft Stream to OneDrive and SharePoint. Migrating the Teams meeting recordings will be bad news for people who were comfortable with Microsoft Stream and had found a workflow that, albeit clunky, did work for them. It also creates some unique challenges for IT staff and teaching and learning departments in having to re-educate people in how this new way of doing things will work. So how can MEDIAL help? MEDIAL's Teams integration means that meetings recorded in Teams, either personally or in a channel, are automatically ingested into MEDIAL and optionally deleted from OneDrive and SharePoint. Once ingested, the recordings are made available within the user's MEDIAL personal category. Configuring the integration is simple, via the addition of a few parameters from your Azure portal. Once ingested, the Teams meeting recordings themselves end up in the user's personal existing media, available within the LMS as well. Each Teams meeting recording is clearly labelled in the search user interface. As the recordings are now ingested in MEDIAL, they are now also easy to share anonymously with people within or crucially outside of your organisation. The recordings are also editable here in terms of trim and chop functionality. You can also use our export function, which allows your users to create multiple clips out of one recording while optionally retaining the original. The recordings can also be easily embedded into the LMS with just a couple of clicks, in stark contrast to the content in OneDrive and SharePoint, where the sharing is actually link-based and will take users away from the LMS. Another point to bear in mind here is that the content items that are stored in OneDrive and SharePoint are treated more like traditional Office documents rather than as media assets. So getting the kind of granular information you get from MEDIAL in terms of things like student engagement is also not possible. Also in terms of the question, there's a question over what to ingest and who from, and we've got a number of different options available. So as in the slide here, you can choose particular users and groups to ingest Teams meetings recordings for, or you can put the power in the hands of the users and specify that only meetings with a particular word or hashtag in the meeting title will be ingested into MEDIAL. Our Zoom integration has also had some improvements made in version 8. Firstly, a slight refresher of this feature if you've not enabled it or are considering doing so. It's again enabled through the MEDIAL UI via the addition of some parameters from your Zoom developer site. It's essentially doing an identical job as the Teams integration. Content recorded to the Zoom cloud can be automatically put in the Zoom trash once it's been ingested into MEDIAL, thereby not counting against your Zoom storage allocation. Once ingested, the Zoom recordings themselves end up in the user's personal existing media, available either in the MEDIAL portal or via our LMS integrations. Again, they're clearly labelled as Zoom recordings in the search UI. As with the Teams integration, you can choose to ingest just from certain users or groups, or allow users to place a particular word or hashtag in their meeting title, which would dictate whether the recording is ingested or not. Another exciting addition is the fact that we can now ingest closed captions from Zoom, so that these are overlaid over any media content ingested into MEDIAL and subsequently embedded in the LMS. These captions from Zoom are also editable in MEDIAL or within any of the LMS integrations. Indeed, on the subject of closed captions specifically, what follows is a brief recap of this feature, as well as what's new in version 8. The closed captions feature is a cost option, with prices starting at just $1 per hour. The ability to create captions can be permissioned to single users as well as groups of people, and an approval workflow can also be set up. Version 6 of MEDIAL actually saw the addition of the ability to request closed captions through the MEDIAL upload wizard. It also saw the inception of our captions editor, which allows you to tidy up captions generated by MEDIAL, or indeed captions files that you upload yourself. In version 7, we migrated our entire offering to Verbit, whose leading edge technology significantly improved the quality of your machine-generated captions. It also gave us the possibility to offer you captions generated by a human in multiple languages. In terms of additions to the captions feature in version 8, as well as the aforementioned ingestion of captions from Zoom, we've added support for some new languages including variants of Chinese, as well as Portuguese, Farsi, Hindi, and Hebrew. We've also added the ability for content to be automatically captioned by MEDIAL. Here you can create a profile so that all content added by certain users or groups is auto-captioned without any involvement from the end user. This is especially relevant now that closed captioning is mandated in many of the countries we provide our service in. That concludes our webinar today. We'll now go into a Q&A session, so have your questions ready and we'll answer them shortly.